Well, hello and welcome back to Tam Talks. You guys, I'm so excited about this new series we're doing. So whether you're watching us on our YouTube channel or you're listening to us on our podcast, we're glad you're here. And as you know, we're doing a series called The Next Chapter. You know, we all have chapters in our life, just like a good novel. Some chapters are suspenseful and exciting, and some are romantic and lovely, and every chapter of your life looks different. And you know, sometimes when you're in a book and you want to turn the page to the next chapter. Well, that's what I want to talk about in our time together. I want to introduce you to great friends, colleagues, great stories, and people that have turned the page in a new chapter of their life. So I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Thao Barkulis. And Thao is a friend of ours. Her husband's on staff here with us at Influence Church. And Thao, you've just become a good friend. First of all, because you're beautiful, you're a makeup artist, you know how to put us all together, you're a fashionista, and that's speaking my language.
I love you.
So I love that. But you're a real person. And you're a person that's gone through a lot of difficulty, especially as young as you are. And I know when we first met you and your husband, it was not under good circumstances. You were coming to the church at that time for prayer. We were believing God for prayer in Noah's life and for healing in Noah's life. So why don't you set up the stage for us? Why don't you tell us your backstory before we turn the page to the new chapter?
Okay, where can I begin? Noah. We were high school sweethearts. Met in high school. Started a family. Life just turned around for us when we heard the diagnosis for Noah. When we found out that he had cancer, we were in shock. We didn't know how to respond to that. And it was one of the hardest things for us in my life, in Noah's life, in our family.
How old were the kids?
Oh man, Zoe was 2, and Landon was 5 when we found out.
And were you made the point like it was denial. And I think for all of us when we've gone through, you get a word that you don't want to receive.
Yeah.
So you suppress it, denial, we'll fight it.
Yeah.
It can't be true, it can't be happening to us. I'm sure all those emotions were going through your heart and your mind.
When we found out, we were sitting in the car. And we looked at each other like, what? How could this happen? It doesn't run in the family.
Wow.
How can this happen to him?
Yeah.
And the thing is that the type of cancer that Noah was diagnosed with, it doesn't happen in young adults. Usually it's in the elderly or somebody that's really, really young.
So it was rare.
It was very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare.
And then remind me how long you guys then went through the journey.
It was a 2-year battle, and it felt like forever.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah, and you sought out, I'm sure, all kinds of, like we all do, you seek out medical advice and the best. I can remember everyone here in the church kind of coaching you, go here, go there, you need this, you need that, Mayo Clinic, all the things we think we need, the best of the best. But, you know, God's hand is God's hand.
Yeah.
And what I want to ask before we turn the page to the beautiful new chapter that you're in right now, God was teaching you lessons even in the midst of that time with Noah. Can you kind of hindsight now, tell us a few things that God was teaching you in that crisis?
A lot of things, actually. To have faith, to trust in his plan. Whatever that looked like, he knew. And he was going to turn it in for good. I've also, during the process, you know, God was so present through it all. And just to lean on his word, that he never fails, no matter what.
Yeah.
As hard as it was, he was carrying us through it. And we leaned on his promises.
You know, you said something that just made me think, because the Bible talks about that he'll take evil and he'll turn it into good. And so all of us want to believe that means he's going to be healed. He's going to take evil, he's going to take sickness and death and turn it into good. But sometimes he takes the evil and he turns it into good for our good.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Bible for all of us tells us that our life is but a vapor for a little while and vanishes away. It's a mist, right? And we all want to hold on to the longevity of life.
Yeah.
You know my story. We lost a daughter-in-law, and it didn't make any sense to me. Young, beautiful. They were only married a year. And I struggled. Can we just get honest a minute? I struggled with that. I struggled with the fact that she was a believer. I'm a believer. My son's a believer. God's good. We're good. All the good people, all the God people, the good people, surely doesn't have God have favor on us? So why do hard times come on God's people? What do you think?
Why? That's a honest question. Why?
But I think you alluded to it, Thao, because you said you saw his presence.
Yeah.
You felt him in the midst of it. He was a good and present God.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question, at least for my part, when we lost our sweet daughter-in-law, even in the midst of the months and months of my questioning, my struggle, and that's why I want to be really real. We call these TAM Talks real and honest conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you're like me, you've either lost a loved one, lost a job, struggled with depression or drugs or alcohol, or you've been abused, or God, where are you? I'm there in the midst of your crisis. And if we will sit still and allow him, Holy Spirit, to bathe us in his presence, we do feel him. And honestly, I don't want to erase those hard times in my life, because in the hard times is where I met the rock. He was there, right? I mean, do you feel that even in the midst of your questioning?
Yeah. You know, the thing is with God, his promise, I had to lean on his promises. And one of those things that I leaned on was that he promised to give me a hope, a future. He would provide, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah. And he did.
And he did.
And he did, because let's turn the chapter. Because listen, we want to hold you captive for a moment, but the truth is, this is called the next chapter. And look at you glowing. And I'm sure Noah is in heaven watching what he wanted for his wife and his children, a beautiful family.
He did.
So
Noah's last words, and it was dear, like one of those things that I hold till this day. He said, live your best life, babe, live your best life, and I'll see you again.
Wow. Live your best life and I'll see you again.
Yeah.
If there's not hope and confident assurance in heaven, in God, in the afterlife, in eternity, those are those words. So the next chapter. So what happened? And tell us about it.
It's crazy. If I can be honest, it was a few months after Noah's passing, and I asked God, I was just really real with him. I said, God, am I meant to be alone? This is what you have for me. Am I supposed to be a widow? If not, you'll put the right person in my life, in the kid's life. Really honest.
Yeah.
What do you want from me? What do you have for me? Because I don't know. And I met Michael here
at the
at church.
And you know, it was so beautiful. We got to watch kind of the behind the scenes. It starts with the glances, the looks, the grabbing coffee, the getting acquainted, the same way you would date someone. But you know what? Here's what I believe, Thao, and I want to talk a little bit about the next chapter, because Michael is just such a beautiful husband to your children, or excuse me, father to your children, husband to you.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is, all of those prayers did not go unanswered.
No.
Life sometimes looks different than we think it will. And that's the hope I want to give you in this podcast is, yes, I'm going to believe in miracles. I'm going to believe in faith. If anything you know about me, I believe in miracles. We've seen the manifestation of miracles. But sometimes our miracles look different.
Yeah.
And I knew Michael on the other side before you met him. And all he did was dream about a family like you have. I mean, he spoke it, he prophetically believed it, he knew God was going to bring someone in his life that loved God, he knew he was going to have children. And the two of you came together so beautifully, which was a divine encounter that the two of you had. So tell us a little bit, you met Michael, the two of you began to date, you fell in love. How did you know that he was the one God had for you?
It was so easy. There was so much peace about it. There wasn't trying. It happened so organically. And he was a man of God, most importantly.
Yeah.
And he was he understood the father's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important to me for the kids.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the backside of Michael's story, he grew up in a adopted family. His parents adopted so many kids, you know, and I think he understood the heart of adoption. So I fell for that as well. There's a connection there that with Landon and Zoe, he just had open arms and just ready to embrace them.
Immediately, yes.
Yeah. So I think there was just the peace that came with it. And it was like God's peace. Saying, yeah, this is okay. Yeah.
So it's the next chapter.
Yeah.
It's the next chapter in life, a beautiful marriage, a beautiful husband, beautiful children. When you guys are running around, the kids are running around here at the offices, and it's so comfortable. That's the word you used. You know, I want to tell this story quickly because we were on our way on a mission trip to Peru. As a church, we took a large group of people to Peru, and I remember being on the plane, and Pastor Phil looked at the two of you and said, "Why don't you just get married in Peru?" Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And the two of you were dating, and we all kind of knew that you guys were probably going to get married. And I think we were like, "Oh no, we're not going to get married." And the next thing I remember is he was shopping for a ring in Peru, right?
We were both shopping.
Okay, so
in
maybe
Peru.
The seed was planted.
The seed was planted.
The pastor said, he gave
but
you the blessing.
But it was really your blessing, Tammy. Do you remember that talk you had with Michael?
Okay, let's talk about it. We're just like sharing here.
Yeah. I think it was a dinner. Influence music, everybody's around, and you're asking everybody else, so how's, life for everybody? Dating, and you sort of hint with Michael, what's going on? Are you talking to anybody? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And I think you knew. And he had asked, I think he asked you, and you said, yeah, she's ready. And it was your blessing that he
was ready to act on.
He was ready to act on.
There's a good spiritual truth there, because something I say all the time, you can repeat it with me, smart people put smarter people around them. Meaning, go for accountability. Find wisdom when you want to make a decision, and listen to people. When there's yellow flags or red flags and people see them in your life and you don't want to heed that, let me just tell you, you're setting yourself up for a failure. So put good people around you that can speak life into you and speak wisdom. And so when Michael asked, I knew that you were falling in love with him. And the beautiful part of the story, and I think why I love you guys so much, is Pastor Phil was going to do the wedding in Peru. He had the wedding all laid out. He had it on his iPad. He'd been preaching in Peru all week. And that particular morning, we were in
Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu. We were up at Machu Picchu, and you guys wanted to get married, and Pastor Phil was going to do the wedding there. And he got up that morning, he said, babe, I'm so sick, I cannot do this wedding. And he handed me the iPad, and he said, you have to marry them, in which I'm licensed, and that's fine. I was honored. But it was one of the most beautiful experiences in my life, to see the two of you and our whole mission team surrounding the two of you in Machu Picchu. And giving you just real stability and prayer to start off your marriage. So it was a beautiful story.
It was the highlight in my life. I mean, highlight.
So Thao, as we close, let me just speak to our audience right now. If you could give them a word of encouragement, and they've just experienced either death or a loss or discouragement, is there hope? Is there a next chapter? How do they hold on for that next chapter?
Lean into God. Press in the moments where everything seems like it's falling apart. God's constant. He is. He never fails. And it's ashes to beauty.
It's beautiful.
He turns everything around for the good. He does.
That's so good. Well, I hope this has been encouraging to you. Guys, I'm sure that all of us know someone that can use this story today. They could use this testimony, that they are looking for their next chapter. Would you share this with someone? I'd love to have you like right here on our YouTube channel. Please like this and let me hear from you. What kinds of interviews would you like me to do? What kinds of studies would you like me to share with you? And then would you pass this along, whether it's on our podcast or our YouTube video? Share this with someone that needs to be encouraged today. We appreciate you guys being here. Continue to look for more TAM Talks to come. Have a great day. Thank you. God bless.